You know, in business, we're always told that our partners are our greatest strength. But what if I told you they could also be your biggest, most hidden vulnerability? Today, we're going to break down how the very suppliers you count on could, well, open the door to a catastrophic cyber attack. And more importantly, what you can actually do about it. All right, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to pull back the curtain on the hidden risks lurking in your supply chain. Then, we'll get into the power of something called Supplier Relationship Management, or SRM. From there, we'll lay out a concrete step-by-step action plan, and we'll wrap it all up with how to really strengthen that weakest link. Sound good? Let's go. So, let's kick things off with the hidden risk. Look, we all know partners are absolutely essential for growth. But in the world we live in today, that very connection, the one that makes you successful, could be your biggest security blind spot. I mean, really think about that for a second. We spend so much time, money, and energy building up our own digital walls. But what about the dozens, maybe even hundreds of digital doors we swing wide open every single day for our suppliers? This is the central, burning question we have to get our heads around. Yeah, this whole system is really a paradox, isn't it? This massive, interconnected web of suppliers is the engine that drives modern business. It fuels efficiency, innovation, you name it. But at the same time, every single connection, every shared API, every integrated system, it's another potential doorway for an attacker to just waltz right into your network. And here's the thing, we can't just unplug from this system. We need our suppliers for their specialized skills, for major cost savings, for the agility to scale up or down, and ironically, we even outsource to them to mitigate certain risks. These benefits are so baked into how we operate that we have no choice but to face this security challenge head-on. This quote just hits the nail on the head. It really doesn't matter how strong your defenses are. If one of your critical suppliers gets breached, they instantly become a direct pipeline for an attack on your own systems. Your entire operation can be brought to its knees by a vulnerability that isn't even yours. You are, quite literally, only as strong as your weakest link. Okay, so if that's the big, scary problem, what's the solution? That brings us to Section 2, the power of SRM. This is all about making a fundamental shift in your thinking, away from those purely transactional relationships and towards building real strategic alliances. So what in the world is SRM, really? It's not just another business buzzword, and it's definitely not just about haggling over prices. It's a total mindset shift. It's about seeing your key suppliers as true partners in a shared mission, a mission to build a more resilient and secure business for everyone involved. Just look at the difference here. The old model, it's all transactional. You pay money, you get a thing. Communication is limited, and you only talk when something goes wrong. But the strategic model, well, that's a continuous partnership built on trust, open communication, and shared goals. Think of it this way. A transactional relationship gets you a boring monthly security report in your inbox. A strategic one? That gets you a shared dashboard where you and your partners see threats in real time and tackle them together. It's a whole different ballgame. But you knew there was a but, right? This deep level of integration creates a new challenge. To make these strategic partnerships work, you have to share data, a lot of it. And that very openness that you need for collaboration can also create new ways for attackers to get in if you're not careful. Now, the goal isn't to stop sharing data, it's to do it intelligently. For every single risk on this list, data breaches, IP theft, you name it, there is a strategic way to mitigate it. Things like secure channels, rock-solid legal agreements, and shared standards, these aren't just defensive moves. They're actually the building blocks of trust and collaboration. Okay, this brings us to Section 3, which might be the most practical part of this whole explainer, your Resilience Action Plan. We're going to lay out a super clear 6-step framework that you can use to formally assess these threats. So how do you actually turn all this strategy into reality? Well, it's not about guesswork or just crossing your fingers and hoping for the best. It's about implementing a formal, repeatable process to really understand and manage the risk your suppliers are introducing. This is where the theory becomes action. And here's the framework. First, you identify your most critical suppliers. You can't boil the ocean, so focus on the partners who have deep access to your systems or handle your sensitive data. Second, you assess their security posture. And a huge pitfall here is just taking a questionnaire at face value. You've got to verify, maybe even bring in a third party to audit. Third, analyze the findings to see what vulnerabilities actually pose a threat to you. Fourth, you develop a mitigation plan to close those gaps, and you do it with your partner. Fifth, you implement that plan.
And finally, and this is so important, you monitor them continuously. A one-and-done check is useless. The threat landscape changes every day.
All right, let's bring this all home in our final section, strengthening your weakest link. We've talked about the problem, the strategy, and the action plan. Now, let's boil it all down to the absolute essentials.
So let's tie this all together with a bow. If you remember anything from our time together, make it this. Your supply chain is now a primary front in the cybersecurity war. You have to move past that old-school transactional thinking and build truly strategic, resilient partnerships. That means embracing secure data sharing as a foundation of trust, and critically, implementing a formal continuous assessment process. This isn't just a nice-to-have anymore. It's essential for survival.
And that leaves us with one crucial final question. It's really no longer a matter of if a disruption will come through your supply chain, but when. So, I'll leave you with this to think about. Do you really, truly know how resilient your most critical supplier is? Because the future of your business might just depend on that answer.